Hello everybody, this is Fernando for the latest Urban Legends video. Alright, let's go ahead and let's do another one here. This one yet again based on one of your new suggestions. So this go around has to do with a suggestion that can pretty much fit in with the world of Hellboy. When I was reading all the information associated with this urban legend, I thought to myself, this is perfect. With the upcoming movie Hellboy that's coming out here in a few weeks, this is absolutely something that can easily be found within that film. You know how those films, the previous two and then this upcoming one, seem to have a myriad of fascinating creatures, stuff that is almost made up from folklore, and such is the case here. And you'll see why later on too, why it has to have almost a direct link to Hellboy. And it has to do with this. You're looking at a creature that is actually interpreted several different ways. In fact, looking at all the information associated with this urban legend, this creature has not just one, not just two, but maybe 3 or 4 different versions of it. It all depends on the location that it's found. And then throughout the passage of time, the ways that it's been changed. So it has to do with this. It's known as the Rawhead and Bloody Bones. So let's go ahead and let's talk about all the fascinating info associated with this urban legend. So what is this Rawhead and Bloody Bones? Well, again, it depends on which version you're talking about. This is something that has been around for a very long time. In fact, you have to look to somewhere around the 16th century, maybe even earlier, to gauge how far back this goes. In fact, apparently the first written evidence of this creature is somewhere around 1564. But apparently even during that time, it was only written for the first time. People were already talking about it even before that. So it goes to show that it could have been in existence, at least as an urban legend, for far longer than that. In essence, Rawhead and Bloody Bones, the first primary version is that it's one single creature. And the second version is that it's split. There's 2 creatures. More on that in a little bit. But the primary version is this. It's another classic telltale type story. It almost has a warning to children that if you do something bad or if you go to a dangerous location that that parents try to warn their children not to go to, then this creature will be able to come out and then grab them, eat them, kill them, the usual kind of stuff that you hear in those cautionary tales, almost like a nursery but with a twist. You've heard those stories, I've heard those stories before, such is the case here with Rawhead and Bloody Bones. And the why it's called Rawhead and Bloody Bones, it's not 2 different versions, like 2 different entities. It's just one, but it's the full name of it is Rawhead and Bloody Bones, is because of this. This boogeyman of sorts is literally made up of a raw head, meaning its head has no skin on it. It's bloody skull. In fact, you see blood coming out from its eyes, from its nose, from its mouth, from its ears. Imagine almost like the Red Skull from Marvel Comics, but instead having it more bloodier. And then with regards to Bloody Bones, again, it's a literal interpretation because the bloody bones are its main body. It's made up of all these bones, probably some muscles here and there, but again, no skin, and then it has bones around it. Another description why it's called Bloody Bones is because it ties into that telltale cautionary story. The way it goes is this. These children, all these children that were behaving naughty, maybe they were not going to sleep. Maybe they were going out at night. Maybe they were traveling to some kind of lakes when they were told not to. These parents apparently came up with this boogeyman as a way to warn them not to do so. And if they went, then they would see this creature and it would drag them either into that pond and they would drown, or if they stayed up late at night and they were wandering around the home, then it would go and hunt them down and then eat them as well. The most famous feature or the most famous location within these tales happens to be in the home. So if the child doesn't go to sleep, and let's say it's wandering, especially on the basement, when it does so, if it peers underneath the stairs, you know how there's always that little crack in between steps, I guess depending on how their staircase was built. But if it's empty behind the area that leads into the darkness underneath the stairwell, in other words, there's no walls underneath each stair, then you can see behind it, and that's where you'll see this creature, this Rawhead and Bloody Bones. And there it is, waiting for the children, which is why they're supposed to be sleeping, which is why they're not supposed to be wandering in the house by themselves, especially at night. Otherwise, it's there to grab them and eat them. And also why it's called Bloody Bones is because another thing that children are supposed to see is whenever they peek through that location, they'll see all the bloody bones of the children before them that were also warned about not doing XYZ, and but they did so. And when that happened, then they became victims, and those bloody bones that add up to a pile are all the victims beforehand. You see how it's all basically just a nursery rhyme? In fact, there was an actual nursery rhyme that landed. I don't know how long back it was, but it became pretty popular, and it goes like this: Rawhead and Bloody Bones steals naughty children from their homes, takes them to his dirty den, and then they are never seen again. So this type of nursery rhyme also led to the popularity of this Rawhead and Bloody Bones. And yet another version of this creature, it's also again like a boogeyman. This is more of what's called a Cornish version. In this case, there was an actual location that you could go to. Apparently it's a place called Baldhu, which is located somewhere in Caldwell, which in turn is located somewhere, Cornwall, which is located somewhere in England, which is located there in the United Kingdom. I don't know if that location, like the exact spot there in Baldhu, but it was apparently a place that was called Knocker's Hole. So I don't know if it's there now to this day or if it's been changed to the passage of time to another name. But if you go to that location, that's where this Rawhead and Bloody Bones, they're known as Old Bloody Bones, inhabited that location. And the reason for it is this: that location apparently had a huge massacre, and so the ghost of this creature, whatever this was attracted to it, and then it stayed there thereafter, also stealing children, and then it became like another boogeyman for that area. And if you wanted yet another twist, remember I was mentioning there's like a third, maybe a fourth version. It has to do with this. In the United States, eventually the urban legend of Rawhead and Bloody Bones came over here. And the way the story goes is this: in this case, it is split entities. So not just one single boogeyman. Now in this case, there's two of them. One is named Rawhead. The other one is named Bloody Bones. The first one is indeed the skull. It's the skull again that's stripped entirely of its skin, and it has all the blood dripping from it. The second one is also a skeleton, the Bloody Bones, and in this case, it dances as well. This type of tale apparently is somewhere in the southern parts of the United States, but it went over, or migrated over here, I guess, with everyone that was coming over as immigrants, and so this cautionary tale eventually became a mainstay in those locations. And it's the same thing too. It's all the whole idea about trying to stay away from dangerous locations, trying to keep children away, in other words, from dangerous locations, and ensuring that nothing happens to them. And then this is the cautionary tale for it. Now, how this ties into Hellboy is this. Check this out. Apparently, Hellboy actually went to a location there called Rawhead and Bloody Bones. Apparently, there's a manor or some kind of restaurant. I don't know what that is, but it was owned by them, by Rawhead and Bloody Bones. So again, when I was mentioning at the very beginning that this is absolutely something perfect to tie into the world of Hellboy, lo and behold, there he is, and there's the universe that they incorporated it there. So fascinating stuff. What do you guys think as far as Rawhead and Bloody Bones? Do you guys think it's one single boogeyman? Is it split in two? Does it dance? Does it eat children? Is it all just simply just a cautionary tale? Who knows? But considering how far back this thing goes, well over 500 years now, you have, at least if you take the idea that the spoken version of it has lasted much longer, then you have something else that takes on a life of its own. Maybe it came from some kind of inspiration, some kind of creature that was out there. I haven't even gone into, but it's kind of sparse, the information that Rawhead and Bloody Bones could have come from a hunter that apparently killed some kind of monster, but this monster was reanimated by a witch into Rawhead and Bloody Bones. There's also the other idea that this creature is roaming the woods. So never mind that it's found in homes, never mind that it's found there at that location in Cornwall. It could also be roaming the woods somewhere here in the United States too. And then that's yet another version or interpretation of this urban legend. Fascinating stuff. Never really heard of this urban legend before, this boogeyman. But as always, it's good to share this information here. But if anyone knows anything else I might have missed, anyone that grew up with this urban legend, if you remember your parents or anyone telling you this boogeyman, hearing the stories of it when you were a child, please post those comments below. Anybody traveled to that area there in Cornwall? Know more about it as far as the actual location where apparently this creature was at one point, or maybe could be there now? Then please post those comments too. So, all right, everybody. Thanks again as always. Take care.